welcome ladies and gentlemen to the Fallen Protector's 10-man normal in the Siege of Orgrimmar raid. And this encounter is best described as a council boss. They do not share hit points, however, if you bring one of them to 1% of his health and you don't kill the other two within 15 seconds, he will heal 20% of his health back, which means these three guys need to die within 15 seconds of each other. When you first engage them, you will fight a Pandaren Brewmaster Monk, a Pandaren Rogue, and a Pandaren Priestess. Each one of them, of course, has different abilities, but they do have one thing in common. If you take them either to 66 or 33% of their maximum HP, they will enter an in-betweeny phase. That is a technical term, so please don't get confused. And we're gonna start with our Brewmaster, Mr. Rook Stonetoe. When Mr. Stonetoe enters the in-betweeny phase, upon reaching 66 or 33% of his maximum health, he will spawn 3 adds. First of them is called Embodied Misery, the second one is Embodied Sorrow, and the third one is Embodied Gloom. Now, the Embodied Misery needs to be picked up by our tank because he casts something called Defiled Ground. Now, up front, this hits like a bloody truck and it leaves a void zone on the ground, which really hurts, so don't stand in it. Embodied Sorrow casts something called Inferno Strike. This does even more damage, but it's split between all targets within 8 yards, so stack up for that. Embodied Gloom will cast something called Corruption Shock. Basically, he will hurl a lightning ball and it will do some moderate damage within 4 yards. Other than that, Mr. Stonetoe will just punch a tank. Sometimes you'll punch him a bit harder, nothing a bit of healing can't fix. He will hurl kegs around, they do moderate damage and they slow you down, but they're really easy to avoid, and he will do something called Clash. He and a randomly selected player will charge towards each other, meeting halfway. As soon as that happens, he will start casting a Spinning Crane Kick, which really hurts, so don't stand in that. Next on the list we have He of the Softfoot family. Now, when he reaches 66 or 33% of his health, he will summon an add. He will just fixate on a random player, and that player will get an extra action button. When he targets another player and hits the extra action button, I will just target him instead. Now, we got the impression that you're supposed to just, send this add around the raid before he gets too deadly, but we have 2 DKs, so we just send the add on the DK, and he was fine. So you're probably supposed to just bounce him around, but we just threw him at the DK and we were fine. But other than that, he is a rogue, of course. He will use some poisons. He uses instant poison, which is more damage, and he uses noxious poison, something like that. Hoobity poison. That will create puddles of poison underneath the tank, so you need to move, but you can also jump over them. And the last ability is probably the best one. He's a rogue, so he of course has Gouge. And when rogue gouges you, he kappa-doobity-bitties you. You can't move. And this works the same way. Gouge only works from the front. So if he hits you from the front, he in kappa-doobity-bitty-you, so you can't move, but if he hits you from the side or from the back, he will just knock you back and you're fine. And the last on the list we have Sun Tenderheart, which is the Priestess, and when she reaches 66 or 33% of her health, she will create this massive globule in the middle of the room, and everywhere else it hurts like hell. So stand in the globule. The only time you might want to get out of there is when you get really unlucky and the Brewmaster starts casting his Spinning Crane Kick in the globule. That's the only time you want to get out. But you also spawn some adds. They're not very threatening. They're probably the least threatening thing here, so just AoE them down and you're fine. Other than that, she will just cast spells. She's a priestess, so Mind's here and stuff like that. Kick it, it's interruptible. And one thing she does that's kind of threatening, might be threatening, she will hit everyone for 30% of their maximum health. And this will remove Shadow Word Bane, which is a magic debuff, but you can dispel that yourself. So, now that we finally know what the hell is going on the screen, and there is a lot going on, but it's not too bad, we can go over the tactics. So, you can take these 3 through the transition phases however you want. What works for you, just do what works for you. But what we found out worked the best for us was we did the Brewmaster, because in my opinion that's the most mana intensive phase. Then we did the Rogue, which is the least mana intensive phase, and then we did the Priestess, which is kinda mana intensive but not really. And you need to do this twice. So there is no really easy way to do this, but we found out this was the easiest. So you do this twice, then we waited until all 3 of them were around 20% health, we bloodlusted and killed them. That's just it. It's not too difficult. But I want to talk a little bit more about the transitional phases and how to deal with them. So let's do that. So when you choose Rook Stonetoe, the first, which is the Brewmaster guy, you want your tank to pick up the Embodied Misery, because he does the Defiled Ground, which hits up front really hard and leaves the Void Zone on the ground. So you don't want him spreading that between, you know, people and stuff like that, so that's really bad. And you want to focus your DPS on the Embodied Sorrow, which casts the Inferno Strike, which does a lot of damage within 8 yards, and that can catch you off guard and actually kill someone if you're not careful. So take that one out first, then kill the Embodied Misery, which does the Defiled Ground, and then kill Embodied Gloom. Heal the Softfoot. Now, I've already kinda said everything about that. If you get the ad, just bounce him between your raid members using the extra action button, but if you have a decently geared tank, just send him on the tank. The tank will be fine. If you have enough damage to kill him before he kills the tank, it's okay. And once again, last, the Sun Tenderheart. When she does the crazy global in the middle of the room, just stack in it, use priest barriers, use tranquilities, you know, healing stream totems and stuff like that, and just AoE the ads. It's not too difficult. Just AoE the ads and you're gonna be fine. And that's it, that's the fight. You do these transition phases twice each, then you kill them. If you don't have very high damage, you might want to wait with Bloodlust until like 10%. We did it at 20 and it was fine, so you just use it at 20. If it doesn't work, try it at 10, and that should be okay. That should just be enough. This fight looks really confusing and difficult. There's a lot of stuff happening, but once you understand it, it's okay. It's not too difficult, alright? 3 pulls, and it's dead. So yeah, I thank you all for watching, and I will see you in another guide. Bye bye.